Hi, and welcome to the Content Marketing Lounge podcast. I am Nathan Collier. I am the host of this show and the admin of the Content Marketing Lounge Facebook group, which just today crossed 7,700 members. If you're not yet a member, come join us. You can just search Content Marketing Lounge on Facebook and you'll find us. Today I have an interview with Karlie Jaenike from Wild Idea. She is the CEO, and Karlie has a fantastic story about starting a business right before the pandemic and then weathering the storm that was the first few months of that time period. Those of you who are working in content marketing, you know that was a bit of a bumpy ride, where at first the pandemic caused companies to just like slash freelancers and let people go, and then as we got into it, we kind of got into a new normal where online marketing and the skills that content marketing people have became more in demand as the whole period went on. So Karlie's got a great story. She talks a lot about remote work and about the strategies that she uses to find her first clients, and then what she's doing now to find clients. And so I hope you enjoy the interview. One note: we did launch in the Content Marketing Lounge the very first premium subscription. So right now I have the subscription open to just 100 people. So at this point there are spots left, and if you are interested in finding out all about that and what comes with it, basically it's access to some premium groups, and then every piece of content and every training course I have ever created and every one I'm ever going to create in the future. It's all included in the premium subscription. So if you're interested in that, there will be a link in the show notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the comments or in the video description. If you're listening to this on a podcast player, it'll be in the show notes. And I just want to let you know that was there. So take a look if you're interested. With that, here's me in conversation with Karlie Jaenike. Hey, Karlie, thanks for joining me this morning.
No problem. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Karlie, we've gone back and forth through email several times. This is the first time we've talked. I'm so fascinated by your story. So introduce yourself, tell people what you do, and like, how did we get to this conversation this morning?
So my name is Karlie. I have a little budding content marketing company called Wild Idea. And we've gotten in touch because I've been a part of the Content Marketing Lounge for a couple of years now. I just started consuming the new course that you put out, and I've been finding it really, really, really helpful.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that later. But tell me more about your agency and how you got to that point. How did this even start? Like, how did you start working for yourself?
Well, like 2 years ago, right before COVID, none of us knew that was coming. So I was working at Siege Media, a fairly well-known content marketing agency. Great people, by the way. Yeah. But I just got this kind of opportunity to jump into freelancing because I had a friend that had quite a few clients lined up that needed content marketing help. So I was like, well, I guess I better just go for it while I have the chance, while I have some clients lined up. And I did. And literally like a month later, not even, like probably like 3 weeks later, COVID hit. And probably like 3 out of 4 of those clients decided they no longer had the budget for content marketing. Because just, everyone was freaking out at the time. They didn't realize like, oh, of course you should be doubling down on online. Everyone just like freaked out and immediately tightened the purse strings. And so I was freaked out. I was like, oh my God, what did I just do to myself?
I remember that was March, whatever day they canceled the NBA season here in the US was like the day everybody kind of looked around and went, oh no, what is happening right now? And people like slashed. They just, fear. And I know what it was fear, right? This is what happens when something like that happens. The first people to get axed is always the contractors, right? Contractors and freelancers in a situation like that. So you were in good company. There were a lot of people, especially that week in the community, there were a lot of people telling that same story. What did you do?
I honestly put my feelers out to kind of more personal connections that I had here in Austin, like old colleagues, friends, family, and I was able to land like a contracting gig with one of the companies that I used to work for back in the day. And so that sustained me while I was, trying to get new clients. And eventually I just kind of made it work, hodgepodge it together, but it was really, really, really scary at the time. And I'm happy to be on the other side of that
now. So tell me, so what is it specifically that you do for clients?
So we do really high quality content marketing pieces. My background is in link building. Siege Media, they are a content marketing and SEO company who specializes in link building. And so they taught me everything I know. From there, I've kind of evolved into more content strategy and consulting, but a lot of my roots are in link building. So a lot of the content pieces that we create are designed to earn passive links over time. Sometimes we create pieces that are designed for manual promotion. Sometimes we just create, regular SEO pieces, but the focus there is really on quality over quantity. I know that a lot of people are kind of pushing the super high publishing cadence these days and, churning out what you call it dumpster diving content.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in a second. So anyone listening, if you don't know that term, I call it, there's this, Karlie, it's got to be the most popular way to create content, right? Which is just like give a writer a keyword, set that writer loose on Google, right? And the writer will just sort of like dig up whatever else has been written about that piece or about that keyword in the past, and then just kind of like rewrite what they find and then publish that. And so it ends up just sort of being like a not that great piece based on a whole bunch of other not that great pieces. And then, 6 weeks later, some other company will go after the same keyword using the same process. And so you just end up with this cycle of rewritten stuff that where none of it has anything new. And so I don't know. As a joke, one day I called that dumpster diving content, and it stuck. So I do think it's a good description of how that works. But I think this is really important because like I think you said the word link building, and I think everybody, if you've been in the game long enough, like you hear that word link building, and it's like, oh no. we're gonna publish 20 articles this month, and then we're gonna set loose like somebody to just like on a list of emails to just beg for backlinks. And like I'm not fundamentally against those topics, but they kind of like, if you've been in the middle of anything like that, it'll crush your soul. Siege, I know, and especially you, as we've talked, like that's not how they do this. So talk more about that, like, because I think this is really important. The quality as a link building strategy.
Yeah. So like link building has never been a dirty word for me because I entered that world from working at Siege, and they do it and we do it now in such a quality way, like creating really, really, really quality assets. And then if you're going to be doing manual pitching, only pitching those to people that are going to be interested. So you go on their website, you do the research, you actually look at it, you ensure that they've published whatever it is that you're promoting before. And a lot of times we'll do something like link bait, like an infographic or like a really cool piece of data or, like a chart or interactive, something that's like actually worth value that someone would actually want to post. Mm-hmm. And you go and you find people who have shared similar content or talked about something similar in the past. You find, the right person to reach out to. You're not spraying and praying. And you just make sure that the people who you're reaching out to are actually going to want what you're putting out there.
Shocker that works, right? And so it's two pieces there, right? Which is, and I do this too, like, which is when I'm reaching out to somebody or I have someone reach out on my behalf, it's not that hard to do that when you have something that's really good and that person is likely to be interested. Like it doesn't feel awful to do that. So I love that strategy. That's what I've been doing this whole time. I heard Andy Cresadonia at a conference talk about there's the lead magnets, like in upgrades, content upgrades, and that kind of stuff. He said you should be doing link magnets, and I like that term too. I think that's what you're talking about here.
Yep. But I swear, even today, like the spammers have kind of started ruining it for all of us. I feel like, and so these days, what we're kind of trying to move towards is kind of baking in passive link intent into the content we create. So creating a piece of content that will get referenced automatically once it starts ranking. And that has been honestly like way more effective for link building these days, because I've just been noticing even like the best pitches are just getting lost in this sea of like spam. I swear I get like 10 emails a day from spammers,
I do too, at least. My inbox is a desert of unopened pitches of that type. So give me an example, because I think this is really important. Again, and this is what I've seen work best too. So when you talk about like passive intent or content that just naturally builds backlinks over time, what's an example?
So like a good classic example, this one's actually getting a little overused too, I think, is like a statistics post. Right. So you curate a whole bunch of statistics that people will want to reference. And these days it's so competitive, you've got to make the piece good enough to where it's going to rank over all of the other pieces. And once it's ranking like one or two, people are kind of too lazy to dig up statistics. So they'll just say something like, like content marketing statistics, and pick the first one, dig a statistic out of it. And a lot of times they'll just link to that page rather than linking to the original source.
Right.
So that's one way to do it. But also, anything like terms, examples, any original statistics, or if you can like quote an original like phrase, like if you could write an article that was ranking for dumpster diving, and dumpster diving became a popular enough phrase that people are talking about it, that piece is going to get a lot of natural backlinks.
Right. So examples of that in our market would be skyscraper technique, right? Ryan Dean gets an unbelievable amount of people that link to that article.
Yes.
A more niche one is Grow and Convert has this idea of pain point SEO that they've kind of termed. So like naming something, and then if you can get that name or that term to sort of become more popular. Even the term content marketing is Joe Pulizzi, right? Like we used to call this custom publishing long ago. and he coined the term content marketing and made it stick back in 2008 is when that term became what we now know. Inbound marketing from the HubSpot team, like all the stuff like that can work. That stats thing, I think is I've done that stats thing too, and it works. It cracks me up though, because you're turning the dumpster diving thing on its head, right? Like all of a sudden, all the people who are out there dumpster diving are now giving you backlinks just all the time. That works, I think. And the other thing is like a report, meaning like if you have any sort of internal data at all that you can, like craft a story around. I'm in the middle of doing one of those right now. That works too. Like I've got some inflation data, some financial data that's unique to a situation that I'm working on. And so that one is designed to do exactly what you just said. Like that'll be the kind of thing people find and link to.
Definitely. You can even kind of create your own study. Like I did for a client, like the best cities in Texas. And we took a whole bunch of different data points and kind of created our own list based on those data points. And we got a little bit of news coverage from it, which was great. But now it's ranking number one, and people still just naturally link to it when they want to know about the best places to live in Texas. So there's so many ways to do it. You're in Texas, right? Yes, I'm in Austin.
Let me ask you about something else you had in your notes that I'm fascinated by, which is that you've been living this remote thing long before COVID, and I have too. For me, it's just been at home though. You've been doing the digital nomad life for a bit. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, so that was actually even before my time at Siege. I took some time off in between when I was working at an in-house place. I went contract for them, and for several months I went digital nomad. I've always been like a huge proponent of remote work, even like way back in that day. At Siege we were hybrid, but we had unlimited vacation time, so I got to travel a good amount during that too. But yeah, that time before that, now that's like probably like 6 years ago, I got to backpack through Thailand by myself. I got to backpack through Bali. It was really, really life changing. And that's why, like, no matter what, even if I have like a home base, even if I'm grounded, I'm always going to be like a huge, huge proponent for a fully remote lifestyle and the ability to do that if you want. I know some people like going into the office, but like, at least for Wild Idea, like that's never going to be a thing.
I like my personal idea. Like I like working from home. I've worked from home full time since 2015. When it was bizarre, wasn't it? When COVID hit and all of a sudden everybody was trying to figure out how to do remote, like how to live that way. I remember just looking around going like, I know how to do this.
Right. It's like, I'm already doing this.
Yeah. I've been doing this long before it was there were so many people who asked me like, how do I use Zoom? How do I click the buttons? Or they were trying to figure out how to do things correctly. Like I helped, like there was like an organization that was trying to figure out how to do, they used to have these like in-person community meetings and they're trying to figure out how to do that online, just simple stuff that like we take for granted. But I like, so, and I've talked about this on a previous podcast, but I didn't discover sort of this whole, I'm a little bit too old, right? Like the digital nomad thing. It just, I was firmly established in my career with like a family and a home and like a whole bunch of like stuff tying me to one location before I ended up in a career path that would have allowed me to go these places. So, but I have that, like, I'm so like, jealous isn't the word, but just like envious. And I think if you're in a situation to do those kinds of things now, go do it. Like now's the time. So, someday I'm going to get myself to places like I've had my eye on like trying to get myself to Costa Rica for like a month and just work from there for a while. Haven't been able to do that yet, but that's one of those things that I hope to do. It's tricky though. I got kids and they're in school and I got all these commitments and I'm not complaining, but that's just my lifestyle. So what did you like? What was it? So you said life changing, and so like why? What about it like changes your perspective?
Well, first of all, that main big, huge, long trip that I took was one of I think that was the second or third time I'd ever left the country. Like, so just the stark change in culture going all the way over there to Southeast Asia, and then also doing it alone. Like my boyfriend ended up meeting up with me for a few weeks, but the majority of those months I was alone and having to rely on yourself, having to ensure that you get yourself where you need to go safely and make sure you have internet and make sure that you're keeping on top of everything while still seeing all these new things while there's a language barrier. It just was like incredibly liberating. I almost didn't realize like I could do all of those things by myself without anyone else's help, you know? And it kind of changes you. Like I said, you come back and even sometimes like when I'm traveling with friends, I get kind of frustrated because I kind of got used to like doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted during that time and making all the calls for myself. And now when I'm with other people, I'm like, I have to like factor in what you want to do too. So it changes your like mental mindset a little bit just because you realize how like strong you are, you know?
I love it. Has it helped you in business?
I would say that it's just like baked into every aspect of my business now. Like, I don't know if I would necessarily say it like has helped, but it's definitely something that like, it's going to be a core part of our culture forever because it means so much to me, you know?
Yeah. How many people do you have like working with you?
Just three of us right now, me and two others. So I do most of the strategy. We work with a bunch of freelancers as well to create the content. So a bunch of freelance designers and writers, but full timers, just three. So
I think that's so. So you've gone from like doing this on your own for the first time in February 2020. We're recording this in June 2022, and you're like a team of three. And I'll tell you, just, between you and me and, the many people who might be listening to this, like that was never something I was able to pull off successfully. The scale up to an agency part, I was super good as a solo freelancer and consultant as well. But the scaling up part, like that one always eluded me. So like, give me tips. Like how have you made this work?
I mean, I don't want to say it because there are things that I don't like doing, but it's like there are things that I don't like doing. So I was like, how do I avoid doing this thing? Like, well, I could hire someone who's better at that thing than me, who's maybe a little more organized in this area. Yeah. And so just kind of figuring out like who you need to hire in order to, kind of take some stress off of you so that you can focus on things like lead gen or, strategy. It kind of just happened naturally. Like when I quit Siege, I was just going to freelance and I was just going to be a consultant. And I still do take on consulting work. And that's a part of what I do, but it just kind of just naturally evolved. I feel like I didn't have to think about it too much. I do know that I've gone through several employees, like trying to make, like employees that didn't work out too well, and like finding a good one is really, really, really important. And I think I have like a really good little team now, but it took a while to find them. One I found through a friend of a friend, and the other I found through Upwork, and I just got really lucky with him. But it is a thing where like, if you are not great at hiring, or like you don't learn from your mistakes when hiring, it can get really frustrating trying to rely on other people,
Right. Is it, so two questions, and I'll hopefully I won't forget to ask the second one. But the first question is, what don't you like to do? Like, what are the things that like, I don't ever want to do that again, or I'm not good at it and somebody else should do it?
I think a lot of like day-to-day, like project management things, staying on top of writers, editing. I don't like editing that much. So editing is something I've outsourced. Sonia, who is on our team, she does, most of the project managing, most of the editing, and she'll do a little bit of like light guest post outreaching and things like that just for us. Oh, and she manages our internal blog as well. So it's not necessarily that I don't like doing those things, but it just, I needed to start focusing outward if I was going to, try to find us more clients and, do larger strategies. So she helps with that.
You can't do everything yourself. And this is like my personal Achilles heel. So yeah, even if I'm good at something, like sometimes I just have to hand it to somebody else because I just can't do all of it. not if things are going to grow. And so that's definitely been like, I resonate with a lot of what you're saying there. I'll give you one more, which is just like, if there's something that you have to do all the time and it like, just, you feel it in your soul, the existential dread of a particular task. Like,
yes,
there's somebody on this planet who like thinks about that task as like one of their favorite things to do. I promise you, like, those people are out there, and you should find that person and have them do that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are things like that. I think in a past life. So I'll tell you this. I mean, transparently, like the project management stuff. When I was trying to scale into an agency was a weakness of mine. I've gotten a lot better at it, and so now that I'm sort of leading teams within organizations and stuff, I've come a long way on that front. But that was tough for me back in the day. And by the way, you're not alone. A lot of people hate editing. It's funny. I noticed that like there's some people that are just like, I'm a writer. I just like to write. I like to create. I like to make things. And then there's other people who are like, oh, I stare at the page and just stare at the blinker and I don't know what to do, but I can edit other people's stuff all day. And it's wild that like just the whatever the task is, there's somebody out there who's excellent at it and loves doing it. And so if you can find that person and let them do it instead of you having to slog through it, that's the thing. That's the dream.
That is the dream.
Where do you find clients?
So this is a continuous struggle for me. At first, like when I went in, like after that whole COVID thing happened and I went into, spider arms, reaching out through all my networks, trying to find clients, that worked for a while. And I found, friend of friends, referrals. I got some clients from social media. But then the referrals kind of started drying up about 6 months ago. And it's actually been a challenge to try to like explore new lead sources and try to figure out something that's really reliable, because, it's nerve wracking not knowing, not having a full pipeline of leads. So we've recently hired a lead gen company who's been helping us out. But also, I've been trying to be more active on LinkedIn, and we've been building our own website, which has been a little bit of a slow go, but just trying to kind of have those multiple lead streams coming in.
What, has there been any particular thing that you found that sort of seems to be like, ooh, that seems to have something that seems like it's starting to work?
Well, like I said, we hired a lead gen company. They are actually doing really well so far. Then it kind of goes back to, again, like if there's something you're not loving, like outsource it. So that's been really helpful. But I really, really want to like LinkedIn because I see it working for other people. And this is something that I haven't gotten to quite yet in your course because I was in Spain. I didn't have a chance to finish it up, but I'm really, really excited to double down on just LinkedIn thought leadership, getting to know people on there and turning that into a lead source.
Yeah. That LinkedIn stuff, man, so obviously I grew a Facebook group and have been doing that for a while, but I noticed that I started getting serious about LinkedIn maybe 2 years ago. And even I don't do it as much as like I think the right word is like, I wish I could spend a little bit more time there. Cause like, I don't get a chance to sort of comment and interact quite as much as I would like. But like, I notice now that like my reach, like the reach of my posts on LinkedIn are actually greater on LinkedIn, the good ones, than they are even within my own Facebook group, like the group that I own. Cause I get stats about that. And it's not always, but like, it's not uncommon for me to like, I think I have 2,500 connections or something on LinkedIn at this point. And like, it's not too uncommon for posts of mine to get 3,000-4,000, impressions on LinkedIn. And on Facebook, like in a 7,700 member private group, each individual post is only going to make it to maybe 2,000 people of those. It's funny, like the LinkedIn's are a lot more like it's up and down. Like the algorithm is more complex. And on Facebook, they tend to be more like it's pretty standard in that, like, I know I'm going to reach a certain number of people each time. But like, yeah, the stuff on LinkedIn and what I really like about LinkedIn is like if you're doing outbound, meaning like you're doing any sort of outbound, meaning like that could be anything like job boards, cold email, really any sort of outreach program. You can send people like your LinkedIn feed. Be like, hey, if you want to get to know me, here's like, I post some stuff here. And it's just, it's like a mini blog, right? That you don't have to create blog posts for. I just find that to be really useful in sort of just showing off sort of who I am and what I could do in the world. So, yeah.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. It's
layering that inbound stuff over outbound. It's sort of like, if you put a LinkedIn strategy in place and you think about it as inbound, it actually like it improves all of your other efforts because it just creates this sort of visible proof of who you are. And that's half of what people are hiring for. I mean, when you hired people, like how much of it is just like culture fit and fit with you? It's like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a big piece of it.
Definitely. And even when I hire contractors, like again, with the lead gen company, the reason I hired them is because I found them on LinkedIn and they were talking about things not even related to lead gen that really resonated with me. I think they were talking about like remote work life or, something that really resonated with me. So I started following them, and then I clicked on their website and, booked a meeting without even them knowing, so that's so powerful, I think.
That's how it works. So, and I do have a bunch of the course you're talking about, by the way, is the new one. It's called Advanced Client Acquisition for Freelancers. That one goes through sort of all the different things that I did from 2015 to 2018, and even up to today. A lot of the stuff that's in there is still stuff that I use for sort of my side hustle stuff. So I tried to dump everything I knew into however many hours that thing is, 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that.
Wow. It's good.
So was there anything, and I'll ask you about this just briefly, like, was there anything as you were going through kind of those lessons that stood out to you as like, wow, like this was really impactful?
Yes. The blog post that is, it acts as like kind of a sales post. Forgive me. What was the name you came up with?
I call it a Trojan horse blog post. Trojan horse.
That is like, I have seen people do that, and I didn't know what it was called, and I didn't know how to actually do it. I would sometimes come across a blog post and I'd be like, wow, I want to work with that company, or I want to be that company. And that's exactly what they were doing. And
they so got you.
Yeah. And you're the first person that has really like broken it down, and you even, God bless you, give a template. And so I'm like so excited to create my own, like that's been one of the biggest aha moments from that course so far.
Cool. Let me like talk people through that. So, because if they had just heard that for the first time, they're like, what is this? So I called it if you don't know the Trojan horse story, it's just Greek mythology. Like it's a blog post that's actually a sales page. So it's presented as content, and the trick to it is really valuable content, meaning like basically I just took my entire process for doing one particular thing. So the two of them then in my world were most effective, where I did one on executive ghostwriting, and then I did one on what I came to call hero case studies, which are like feature stories of a company's customers. So not like a traditional case study, but a case study that's more, it makes the customer the hero of the story, right? So those were the two things. And I sold a bunch of those back when I was freelancing. Those were the two things I got hired to do most often. And so I just wrote my whole process down, like in a long form blog post, detailed step by step. And more than that, like I talked about why in the hero case study one, you always kind of want to go left before you come back to it, which is like, you talk about why, if you want to get a case study, you talk about why that's frustrating. It's usually because you try to ask, in that case, if you try to ask a customer for a case study, they're like, I don't want to be like a reference, like I don't want to be the face on your website that like it's just on a traditional case study. Because there's nothing in that for them, right? And so instead, I go to them and I say, hey, can I feature you in a blog post? And everybody says yes to that. They're always like, yes, I'd love to be featured in a blog post. And so I just write the blog post that's just featuring them, like I was writing a story for Entrepreneur Magazine or something. And it so happens that in the middle of the blog post, like in the middle of the feature story, right? Like I'm going to include the product because it's part of their story. And so I get all the value of a case study without having to sort of sell it as a case study. And so that's the sort of unique twist that I brought to that particular topic. And so literally just started, like I wrote a post and it started with like, here's the frustrations when you get case studies. Here's why there's nothing in it for customers. Here's another way to do it. Like just ask this question. Hey, can I feature you in a blog post? And then write it like this. And then I just gave the outline of how I do like that particular type of project. And buried within there was like, by the way, like, so, like I charge like $1,000 for these. And so like the price and the process and why I was different and why I was unique and why I was the only one in the world to be able to do that is all just listed in this post. And so at the end of that post, when I talk to people, they're like, why would I give away my entire process for free? And it's because if somebody gets to the end of that process and they're like, I got to hire this guy to do this, then like, there's no sales process, right? Like I don't have to sell that person. If they reach out to me after reading that post, they're just in. Like it takes away all of the negotiation, all of the everything, because now they're just hiring me to do their process. And so that's what I call a Trojan horse blog post. And that was when when I figured that out is when all of a sudden like sales became really easy. Because there just wasn't any sales anymore. People would, if they inbounded to me, I would just send them that post. Say, I just like, here, read this. Tells you everything you need to know. And if they responded after they read it, then they were just in. It was just, when do you want to start? That was all there ever was. There was never a question about price. It wasn't like every person like closed that way. But it was okay. Like if they didn't respond after they read the post because they were price sensitive, then I didn't have to have a sales call where we went through like a price objection, right? It just qualified them in or out. So that's a Trojan horse blog post. In the course, there is like a broken down like Google Doc that has like a template that you just step by step kind of go your way through it. But you could do it. If you go to callyourmarketing.com and just like click the blog, you'll see them. They're there. So anybody could do those, and that's why they work. And that's why you see people like, I think agencies in particular are really the ones that I think I saw do these really well. Do it first anyway, because you get done with those and you're like, okay, that sounds great. I can't do this on my own. I don't even know the skills, but like these people clearly know what they're talking about. Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Like people would think that like, oh yeah, you're giving away your stuff for free. But like you said, like by the end, when someone reads through that whole post, they're like, I don't want to do this. I want to trust the expert. So it does work. And I know, because I've done that myself, like when I'm reading other people's. So yeah,
you're like, I think you feel like you're giving away all of your stuff, but like, let's be honest, like the person on the other side, they can't do what you do. Like they can't. I've done hundreds of these. Like they can't just like, they can't do what you can do with the quality that you can do it. And so there's no danger in quote unquote giving away your stuff, because you've given away your process, but that doesn't mean that they can use your process to replicate what you've done. So anyway, well, cool. I'm glad that was helpful.
Definitely.
Was there anything and I want to, so in our emails back and forth, there's one part that you talked about a little bit, which was just sort of like I don't know, is it the emotional side of things, the sort of frustration side of things, the process side of things, because the danger is like, and I really struggle with this personally, because like I have all these stories from all this time, but I've been doing this kind of stuff for 9 years now, and it took a long time, and I wasn't very good at it for a while. And we talked a little bit about that kind of stuff, about sort of give yourself the grace to sort of learn. So like talk about that a little bit.
Definitely. Well, yeah, like you start in this world and there's really no one that kind of teaches you like, oh, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. So you look at what everybody else is doing and how successful everybody else is. And you think that there's just this mystical thing that you don't know or don't get. And you kind of start to doubt yourself a little bit. And when you see someone else who you respect or who's got it figured out, kind of break things down into something that appears simple now, and you're like, oh, like this wasn't magic. Like this is how they're doing this. And it's, many of those aha moments build up over the years, and that's obviously how you learn. But it's so nice having someone lay it out for you versus having to go and try to like reverse engineer someone's strategy, or, it makes things more attainable, and it gives you kind of a confidence that you can do it as well, which is just as helpful as any template or anything like that,
I distinctly remember I was talking to a business coach in like, it had to have been early 2015, might have been like late 2014. And I've been freelancing as a side hustle for 1.5 years at that point. And I remember like, he was telling me all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, I kept waiting for him to tell me like, how do I find clients? was my question. That was my question. I was like, okay, like once I get in front of the right people, I close them, I do good work for them, I keep them. Like I knew I had value, but I couldn't figure out how to get in front of like the right people because I didn't have a way to do that. I was just banging out proposals on job boards. It was the only thing I knew how to do. And he just talking. And then I remember asking him, I was like, okay, but how do I find them? And he didn't have an answer for me. And I remember being so frustrated by that. I'm like, there's got to be some like key that I'm not finding here. And ultimately it was just trying enough things that you just try things and try things and try things. And in that course, I have the 4 things that work for me, but I tried so many more things that didn't work.
Yeah.
I remember trying to start like an email list, right? And it was like, this has to be right in that same time period. And back then you could buy Facebook ads for like nothing, for like a couple of clicks, a penny, right? And you could send them just straight to a squeeze page with like a content upgrade, and then put them on your email list, and then just like drip on them like a drip sequence for forever, right? And so there were these people who were out there talking about how you should do this and how they were building passive income doing this and all this kind of stuff. And I tried it, and like I was just handing my money to Facebook. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter how many like people clicked on a thing. Like nobody, it just didn't work at all. And I remember thinking like, this is dumb. Like what am I even doing here? But that's the process, right? It's just, you just try things, and you're sort of, it took me a good 2 years before I really felt like I had my hands around at that time 2 methods for getting clients. Those were cold email and job boards. And then later I figured out that Trojan horse thing, which was also an accident, by the way. I just wrote an article that I thought would be good about how like I had done gotten a bunch of views over a particular year. And I sent that to a client one day, and he was definitely like on the fence when we were starting to talk back and forth. And then he read that article, and he was like, wait, why are you not doing all this for me? Tell me about all these things, because I didn't know you could do all this. I thought you were just a writer. And that was like, like if I create content that goes through like my expertise, then people will hire me to do that. And I don't know why it seems like such an obvious thing in hindsight, but I mean, that was 2018, end of 2018. So, I mean, that's 5 years into my freelancing journey at that point before I figured that out. So I guess the point being like, I really thought that was really like well said, that like, I remember looking at other people go, because Neil Patel, right? Neil Patel's out there. You're like, you compare yourself to him. Like, I'm never going to be Neil Patel. I'm just not. But that doesn't mean I don't have something valuable. That doesn't mean I can't find clients. And I mean, that Instagram feed that you're looking at, whoever it is, even like mine, right? That's a highlight reel. That's not their everyday experience.
So true. So true. It is. It's so easy to play the compare game, and look at people who a lot of times have been doing this like for 10 years when you're just getting started and getting real intimidated and imposter syndrome. And I remember for a while, I was even like putting off posting on LinkedIn at all because I was so terrified that someone would think that, maybe I thought I was a big shotter. Like I thought I knew what I was talking about when I didn't, or something like that, or that I might say something wrong. And it's just like kind of exposure therapy, like forcing yourself to just keep doing it and realizing that like nobody's gonna cancel you unless you do something like horrible. But, yeah.
I love your post, by the way. So you've been taking a break the last couple of weeks, and I saw your post about taking a break, even, which I thought was genius. But I think that, and I think that's the same thing, which is like, I was just talking to somebody about this. He said like, he was not like an aspiring novelist, and he was like, how do I find people to read my stuff? And he said he hadn't been able to sort of get himself to publish stuff into public forums, because he was just like, I just don't know how people react. And I got something someone told me that was really helpful, which is like, there's this phrase like, fake it till you make it, right? And what he told me was like, don't fake your skills, don't fake your knowledge, meaning like, don't pretend to be someone that you're not, or to know things that you don't, because people see right through that kind of stuff. And that's everywhere, right? You can see that everywhere. But the thing to fake is your confidence. Like, even if you don't feel confident, like click the publish button anyway, because publishing is the thing. And the only thing that helps you like get over it is just to feel that anxiety and just publish anyway. Just do it anyway. Just click the button. And to this day, I still like that imposter syndrome stuff, that anxiety about how people will react to my stuff. That has not gone away. Like I have thousands and thousands of posts that everybody has liked. That I get like some posts get so many little heart clicks that it's just like the ego inside of me. It like yeah, that was good. I feel good. I've been socially validated by all the people clicking the button. And then the next time I go to like write a thing and I'm like, I wonder how people react to this. That never goes away. It just doesn't. At least it doesn't for me. But I publish anyway. And that's the only secret, is just to create the thing and publish it just over and over again.
Yep. It's what you got to do.
What, I feel like I've been talking too much. Tell me a couple of tips from your agency experience. So say that there are people listening to this and they're like, wow, like you just made the leap and then you ran into COVID and you found your way through that. And here you are 2 years later, still going. What are some lessons that you've learned about, I think persistence has to be in there, right? Like resilience. What are some things that you would tell to somebody who might want to like follow in the same kind of journey?
So definitely persistence is one. Really like kind of being honest with yourself as well about like what you can do and how you can make things work. Like I know I ran into, a lucky strike having, a good foundation here in Austin with good business contacts, but, like maybe, being really careful about not leaving your job until you're for sure that you are going to have, enough clients coming in. And, everyone's always just like, take the leap. And like, that's what I did. But I sometimes I feel like I got really lucky in terms of like contacts coming through for me. So if I was telling someone else to do it, I would say, make sure that you have figured out the lead gen game before you get started. I would also say when you are looking to mentors, try to find someone who's doing exactly what you're doing or similar, rather than mentors that are not doing what you're doing at all. Because I've gone through many mentors who have helped me in a lot of different ways, but I have found that even like the content marketing lounge and like things that I haven't been paying a whole lot of money for have been more helpful because they're more relevant to me than maybe like a business coach who, helps freelancers in general. So I spent like a lot of time searching for answers where there weren't any, and so going and finding someone who does exactly what you do and trying to either get them to mentor you or coach you or similar. That is something that I think I wish I would have done a little bit sooner.
I agree wholeheartedly. Find the person who has done exactly what you want to do and who's only a little bit ahead of you, right? A couple of years ahead of you. Not the person who's all the way on top of the mountain. Yeah. Because by then they've forgotten where they were, however many years ago. So, and then I would say like I'm with you. Like I've had some business coaches that try to teach me some things that just weren't relevant to me at all. So it was just a waste of my money. And then I've had some people who they weren't even really professional business coaches, but they were just doing what I wanted to do. And when I went to them and had learned from them, I was like, oh, like you can teach me exactly what to do. And I can just do it. So the Content Marketing Lounge is built on the framework of the Cult of Copy, which is another group run by a guy named Colin Terrio. And I saw what he was doing. I'm like, teach me. and I bought some consulting from him and I just did exactly what he did, but I did it my own way, right? Like I just sort of put my own personality over the top of the regular processes that he had, and it worked. Shocking. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is really, really helpful. So is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Yeah. So I did have a question about lead gen on LinkedIn versus your Facebook group when you were talking about that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So with the Content Marketing Lounge, that lounge is full of content marketers, right?
Correct.
But LinkedIn is full of, everybody. So do you think that it has been more worth your time to focus on LinkedIn lead gen versus building, a group of content marketers?
It's a great question, and I don't have a simple answer for you, but I'll tell you sort of a couple different angles on this. The Facebook group for me personally has been by far and away the most valuable thing I've ever done in terms of like just professional, like development, growth, personal brand. I am where I am in my career today because of that group, no doubt. That said, it took forever, and it was not easy. And it's a fairly niche thing to do, to create your own sort of community that way. But I love it. Love in all caps. Like I love building communities, and I just love bringing people together, and I love interacting with, like I would do it anyway, even if it wasn't a business thing. And so for me, it was a very natural thing for me to do. And I know that most people are not that way. If you're looking specifically like at lead gen as a tactic, like LinkedIn is the place to do it, because you can do it so much faster there. You could build a much more like diverse network of people there, and it's public is the thing. And so the LinkedIn stuff is it's just a better place to like put your attention if you want to build some inbound momentum for either as a freelancer or as an agency. And the reason is there's one other really specific like tactical thing I'll tell you, which is in the Content Marketing Lounge, I'm going to call them horizontal. It's people like you, right? Like you and I are peers. And that's phenomenal, because like I'm at the place now, there's 7,699 people in the group as of last night. Not that I'm counting. I've been like waiting for it to go over like 7,700 for like a couple days. And it's just like, come on, we're almost there. There's so many people in there that like, there's no question that you could ask me that I wouldn't know either how to do it or who knows how to do it. And it like that second half of that question is much more prevalent, because like there's just so many people in the community that I've met over the years that know exactly how to do this. Like Karlie, like from now on, Karlie, like the whole like link magnet thing, like they're coming to you. Like those people are coming to you. Those leads are going to get right, because I know that you're like a world-class expert in that particular thing. And so like that has been so helpful for me personally, just have that sort of network. And I thought when I built the Facebook group that I would get leads directly from the group. And that didn't really happen at first. It was a couple of years before the group itself started to become a lead gen type thing for me. And even then, it ended up being more of a closing technique than a direct lead gen thing, in that I would go out, I'd use some sort of outbound technique, right? So I'd use either a cold email or a connection on a social platform, or a job proposal, like putting in a job proposal somewhere for an open listing. But then as I was talking to clients after they looked at my samples, they would be like, oh, wait, you also have this like big community that you've built yourself. Obviously, we're going to hire this guy. And so it ended up being a reason that they picked me over other people rather than a direct lead gen thing itself in the earlier days. And then later, what started to happen is that after people started to get to know me, I started to get referrals from the people within the group, if that makes sense. So you, Karlie, you'd be talking to somebody and you'd be like, you know what, I can't really help this person, but this person needs to talk to Nathan. And then I'd get messages from people in the group sending me names of people who they were going to introduce me to. And that's how the lead gen would start to happen within the group. And then that didn't pick up until I think the group crossed about 3,000-4,000 people. And that really started to work really well. But that took years. And if you're going to do that today, if you're like staring at like trying to figure out how to do this, like where you don't want to wait 4 years for it to work, like LinkedIn is so much better of a place. Facebook group is all horizontal connections for me, right? And so it's going to be a bunch of referrals, meaning like people who those people come into that they send to me. On LinkedIn, you can actually like build connections with people who have the job titles that can hire you directly. Those would be, I started calling them vertical connections, meaning like, so if you're a freelancer, you might want to reach out to like CMO level people or VP of marketing people or marketing directors, these kinds of people. And I have a whole process for that. I won't go through it here. But if you rely just on the LinkedIn algorithm to sort of like show your posts to people in on the platform in general, it's only really going to do that like naturally it'll build like those horizontal connections kind of on your behalf as you're just active on the platform. But you have to be intentional on LinkedIn about building some connections to people with titles that are one level up who could potentially hire you. This is, by the way, the same strategy for people who are like doing it as a personal brand, as a way to connect with people who could be your future bosses. But by doing that, say I reach out to, like, say I go and I find a CMO, right, on LinkedIn, and I click their activity, like I look at their profile and then I click their activities and I find a post of theirs and I just click the like button, right? Just that. That puts me on their radar as like, they might see my face, they might see my name, they might get a notification about that. And then I'll send them a connection request. And I usually don't like do anything more than that. I just say, hey, it'd be great to connect. Hit the connection request. What that does is that if that person accepts my request, then all of a sudden, like, the LinkedIn algorithm connects my profile to that person's profile. And they're like, oh, Nathan has like CMOs in his network. Maybe when he posts something that's getting interacted with by a bunch of people with those job titles, I'll put it into those people's feeds. And so it creates this sort of larger distribution network that, if you're intentional about it, can get your content in front of people who have the job titles who could hire you. And so that's a long way to answer your question. But LinkedIn has some algorithm like things going for it that really, I think, make it the place to do lead gen if you want to build, something like that.
No, very helpful. Very helpful. I know I've kind of tried both. Like I have a very small Facebook group. It was originally targeted at smaller business owners to try to get them to, be aware of my services. But now it's becoming more of like a group for SEOs. But it's just been really difficult to build. And then it's also been, fairly challenging to get started on LinkedIn. So it's kind of like, where should I focus my time?
The thing with LinkedIn is it has that whole second level connection thing, meaning like you have all your first level connections, right? I have 2,500 or so, and but then my content when I post, if you, Karlie, like my content or like react to it in any way, there's a whole bunch of people who are first level connections for you that will see that, even though they're not first level connections with me, right? They'll see my content because you interact with my content. And so it has this sort of viral loop in it that you don't get with a Facebook group. And don't get me wrong, like, if you're into building Facebook groups, go do it. Like, and I could tell you everything you want to know about that. But as far as a lead gen play, for anybody who's listening to this, like, LinkedIn's really like, that's what I've seen be the most useful place to do that kind of stuff. I'll give you one other one though, and it's not one that I've personally done. Like, if you really want like algorithm fire, like that TikTok algorithm is crazy. the number of people who get like build followings on TikTok in like weeks instead of years is I don't have words to describe how like stunned I am at the way that particular algorithm works. So if you happen to be somebody who is more, video is more your thing, like, give it a shot. Give TikTok a shot and just see what you can do with it. I'm a writer, so like for me, LinkedIn is a much more natural place.
Very, very intimidated by LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn, sorry, by TikTok.
Same.
I'm not trying that yet.
I don't even like. I haven't even really like taken enough time to sort of figure out what could work on a platform like Instagram. Like, so even photos is like, it's just out of my skill set. I have plenty of people who like in my network who do it, like in my job, like we do it, but it's not me who's doing it. Right. That's another thing. Like, I just don't have the expertise there, but yeah, the video stuff is just not, it's just not, you talk about anxiety, like the anxiety I get of posting like a post that I've written versus a video in a platform like that. I'd have a lot of sort of work to do to sort of
become more comfortable there. So, but there again, like I could do it. Publishing is the thing, right? Just practice is all it takes. So.
Yeah, maybe someday. I'm the same way. I'm much better written than I'm spoken. And so if I'm trying to do little videos, I'll record the same like 10-second video like 80 times. It's a lot.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, two final questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. Right. So, what was your answer to the group screening question when you joined the group? So I like to ask the question. I have a question in my group screening question. It just says, for fun, pick one superpower. It's flight. Let's see, flight, teleportation, or the ability to stop and start time on command.
Ooh, I don't actually remember what I answered at the time because I've been in the group for a couple of years, but I would say teleportation because then I can travel anywhere quickly. I can go work from Paris for the day or something like that. So yeah, that's what I would do.
I love it. There's no wrong answer to that by the way. And having read thousands of people's answers to that question, I can see all like, because people sometimes give me like lengthy reasoning in the answer for why they picked one. And I've noticed that like the teleportation people are like, oh, I'd love to travel. And then the start and stop time on command people are like, a lot of them are parents, right? They're like, oh, I'd love to take a nap. And I resonate with that for sure. And then the flight, my favorite there are the people who say flight because it's always like flight because it would be awesome. and like, yeah, like I get that, right? Like I sometimes there's some days when I feel that way too. So, anyway, yeah, I should have guessed that like teleportation would have been the one for you. So, what's the type of company that if somebody listening to this is like, either they are that company or they work for that company or they know somebody who's this company, like your perfect prospect, like the person that you can help the most. What does that look like for you?
So pretty much anyone that has a primarily online business. We don't do as much work with like local businesses or people who need to do local SEO. We work with a lot of software companies. We work with a lot of like national real estate companies, travel companies I always love working with. And then just in terms of like what kind of people and what kind of companies I love to gravitate towards, anyone who is doing anything with future of work, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, anything that I can kind of feel like an emotional pull towards. I always really love working with those kind of businesses as well.
Very cool. How can they reach you?
You can email me at Karlie@getwildidea.com or head to my website, getwildidea.com, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Karlie Jaenike, KarliJaenike.
Sounds great. We will put links to those things in the podcast description. Karlie, thanks so much for the conversation today. It was great to chat with you. Thank
you for having me. It's so much fun.
Oh man, just listen back through that and a couple things to highlight from our conversation that really stuck out to me. I think really just one. And so Karlie, first of all, Karlie, if you listen to this, thank you so much for coming on the show. The one thing I really, after that conversation, Karlie, I think immediately, Karlie, if you're listening, you went like immediately onto Facebook and posted a note about our conversation. And I just wanted to read this because I think of all the things that we talked about in this conversation, this one stands out to me as well. So Karlie wrote, buzzing from the conversation I just had with Nathan Collier. We talked about everything from link acquisition to dumpster diving to remote work life to lead gen. All super interesting. But the one thing that sticks with me currently is our conversation about imposter syndrome. Did you know that to this day, he meaning me, still feels slightly nervous before hitting the post button? That same feeling that I feel, and you probably feel. What if I say something incorrect? What if I'm called out? What if they don't like me? The moral of the story is to just do the damn thing. Don't fake your skills because people can see through that. But if you need to, fake your confidence because it leads to real confidence. Just post, keep posting. If your posts aren't awesome at first, they'll improve. You have value. What you have to say matters. That's all for today. Thank you, Karlie, for writing that summary. I think that's a point I come back to over and over again, right? And just to confirm, it is true. And there are some days when the word slightly nervous is not strong enough, right? Sometimes I feel a great deal of anxiety about writing something and publishing it. I think especially earlier this week when I came out with the premium subscription, which was a brand new thing. I think in particular when I have something to sell, I always have quite a lot of anxiety about that. But I've learned over the years that that's actually, it's an okay thing. Like I think that anxiety and that imposter syndrome and that concern about what people will think, in a way, that's good. Like, it means you care. It means that you're somebody who cares about the quality of your work, and you want the world to know that you've created something that you hope will help the world. And that's a positive thing, not a negative thing. And so the only thing that's negative is if it holds you back. So feel the fear, acknowledge the anxiety, but then just click the publish button anyway. And that's what I've learned to do, because it is the publishing that is the thing, not necessarily how you feel about it. I don't know that, I mean, maybe some people quote unquote, get over imposter syndrome, but I never have. And I don't know that I ever will. And that's okay with me. I'm okay with that. I'm able to do my work and to publish my content and to interact with all of you in our communities all the same. So thank you, Karlie, for coming on the show and for really highlighting that one point, which I think might have been the most important moment of that whole show. So for those of you listening, we will have a new interview next week, and hopefully a series of them coming forward. So I've got this one and then 2 more that are already recorded. And then I'll be lining up a few more this week. So till we speak again, be good to yourself, take care of yourself. I will talk to you again very soon.